everyone, my name is Agung Santoso. I will explain my paper about general business environment, strategies of Indomaret. This is the introduction. Modern retail industry is growing rapidly in Indonesia. There are three factors the important factors that drive the growth. The first is trend of increasing the household income, the increase of the population, and also people still feel optimistic with current economic condition. There are two categories of retail business. The first is traditional retail, include traditional market or wet market, grocery store and kiosk. And the second is modern retail, include mini market, supermarket, and even hypermarket. We will focus on the mini market because the mini market is the most expensive modern retail business compared with others. This is the definition of mini market. Mini market is a store that sells food, convenient goods, and sometimes other goods. The mini market has been grown rapidly since 2011, but this business is dominated by only two largest mini market operators, Indomaret and Alfamart. In this paper, I will focus on the Indomaret, one of the biggest mini market operators in Indonesia. This is how companies should think strategically. They have to consider about the external environment and internal environment. Internal environment is about the strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat have by the internally of company. And this paper will focus on the external environment. This is internal environment. There are 7 aspects: demography, socio-cultural, government and politics, natural environment, law, technology, and economic. This is a glance about the company profile of the Indomaret established its first official toko in 1988 in Ancol, Jakarta, under the name of Indomaret. This is a composition. There is more than 7,000 stores across Indonesia. 40% is a franchise and 60% are company-owned stores. Indomaret is a mini market network that focuses only to provide daily needs. This is the motto, simple and frugal. In Indonesian, we often call mudah dan hemat. Indomaret Primatama sells more than 5,000 types of food product and non-food items, and it is supported by 33 modern distribution centers spread across Indonesia. The first I will explain about the demographic. This is about the Indonesian demographic. Number of population is 2060 million. The fourth largest country in the term of population size. Ethnic composition is varied, and Indonesian demographic have a great potential economic. I will go deeper in 3 aspects about the population growth, expanding the middle class, and declining the poverty rate in Indonesia. This is about the population growth in Indonesia. The population is around 260 million, with the growth rate is 1.1% in 2018. Indonesia has experienced the declining of both mortality and fertility rate. It's good for the Indonesia. The working age population is growing relatively at fast rate. It's also good because the working age population become the driver of the economic growth of Indonesia. This is about the middle class expansion in Indonesia. This is the definition of middle class from the World Bank. It's people with the little chance of falling into poverty or vulnerability, with income between 1.2 million rupiah until 6 million rupiah per person. The middle class has alternating their disposable income toward discretionary consumption, and also they tend to buy higher quality goods and services. A rapidly growing middle class is good for Indonesia because of these three reasons. There are the benefit that rapidly growing middle class enjoy. The second one is it is the key driver of consumption growth and influential constituency for better government, and also it become the largest provider of the income tax revenue for the government. Growing the middle class is also related with the reducing inequality and improving delivery of the public service. The third aspect of the demography is declining the poverty rate. This is in Indonesian poverty rate from 2011 until 2019. We can see that the percentage of the poverty rate is declining. It's declining slowly, but it is consistent from 12.49 until 9.22 in the 2019. But the problem is about inequality distribution of wealth in Indonesia. This is the 5 provinces with highest poverty rate. There are 5, and we can see that it is located in the eastern part of the Indonesia. So we can conclude the wealth usually distributed on the western part of the Indonesia. It's become a homework for the government, and also it must be considered by the Indomaret to when he try to expand into eastern part of the Indonesia. The second aspect is about socio-cultural. We can see that expanding the middle class cause changing in behavior that can become fuel of the economic growth. This is the middle class phenomena. I don't highlight the important thing about the middle class phenomena. The first important thing is that middle class consumption grown 12% annually since 2002. It's a higher rate of growing growth. Also, the middle class is now responsible for nearly half of the consumption in Indonesia. The majority of consumption is food. It's not only food but also discretionary items such as entertainment. The middle class is also more likely to travel and more often travel for pleasure. The middle class are more exposed to the technology that drive the modern global economy. The consumption pattern of the middle class and its role in economic don't have important implication for growth in the future. It's the Indomaret strategy how to deal with the expanding of the middle class. They collaborate with the hotel provider. They collaborate with the entertainment, for example, Cinema 221. They also become a payment point for the transportation provider, Garuda, Citylink, Lion Air, and Batik Air, and also for the entertainment, for example, and internet provider. The other aspect is about the variety of religion in Indonesia. It can be beneficial for Indomaret because it can push the sales, especially near the religious holiday. Therefore, seasonal period in Indomaret, when the sale is increase sharply, especially in Idul Fitri, the main seasonal period in Christmas and New Year, in black period usually in Java, Medan, Pontianak, and Manado, and Nyepi usually in Bali. Indomaret also face the social issue about imbalance competition between Indomaret and the small shop. It caused the small market out of the business. It creates greater unemployment and bigger social problem in the future. Government via the competition authority or KPPU should enforce the law and make the policy that keep balancing between the Indomaret and small market interests. The third aspect that I want to explain is about government and domestic politics. We know that Joko Widodo won the presidential election in 2014 and re-elected in 2019. Before for the boost growth and attract investment and improve of infrastructure. He has undertaken several reforms to full growth with different degree of success. He has improved the country fiscal credibility, improved public infrastructure, and create a market-friendly investment environment for Indonesia. This is the newly formed during Jokowi period. The important thing is about connectivity, the maintenance for infrastructure development in Indonesia, and the government also introduced 13 economic policy packet. This is for to support small and medium business and fiscal incentive to attract investment, and also the government changed the foreign ownership in order to have foreign investment to invest in Indonesia. This is about the political stability index in Indonesia during from 2010 until 2018. We see that in 2018 the political stability index is low. It means that the politics is stable in Indonesia. This is about the ease of doing business index. We can see the trend that the trend is going down from rank 2126 and it dropped to 73. It means that ease of doing business index is growing better, and the government can provide the easiness for the corporate investor to invest in Indonesia. This is the conclusion about government and domestic politics. Jokowi has done well to create a conducive climate for business cooperation in Indonesia. For retail business like Indomaret, stability and infrastructure are very important. Infrastructure is important to support the logistics in Indomaret. Stability is important to keep business running and keep the economy growing, and in the end the domestic consumption will increase also. Now I will consider about the company should also consider about the natural environment. Indonesia is the second biggest contributor of plastic waste being dumped in the sea. You can see Indonesia is the second position below the China. The Indonesian government plans to implement a policy to limit a single-use plastic in an effort to reduce ocean plastic waste by 70% by 2025. Indonesia has also made several assertive initiatives to ban a plastic bag in several localities, for example in Banjarmasin, Balikpapan, Bogor, and Bali. This is the example of the regulation from Bali. This is limit the use of single-use plastic. And Indomaret Regional Bali also follow the instruction of the Bali government, and Indomaret Regional Bali has stopped giving single-use disposable plastic bag to its customer. The second is Indomaret use the degradable plastic bag made from oxium, which is more eco-friendly to reduce the plastic pollution. Now I will explain about law aspect in the external environment for the company. The fast growing of mini market industry creates conflict between mini market operator and traditional market. Government has already tried to solve the conflict by issuing regulation. There is several regulation. The important thing is about the presidential regulation in 2007 that limit on operating hours, zoning, distribution, and supply, and other logistic activities for the mini market. And then in the presidential regulation in 2014, they established size requirement for fully or partially foreign-owned business. Stipulating the mini market must have at least 400 square meter of retail space, supermarket of a minimum of 1,200 square meter, and department store at least 2,000 square meter. But in the end, the government relaxed many such restrictions on the retail space receiving for foreign investment. This is the important aspect about law. There is always imbalance competition between traditional market and modern market, like in the market. the government have to pass the regulation that can balance these two opposite parties and create equality for both competing parties. The next is about technology. I want to explain about e-commerce. Indonesia has the largest population in Southeast Asia, and e-commerce penetration is not fully developed. There are four major factors to e-commerce surge in Indonesia. The first is growing middle class, high internet and mobile penetration rate, growing number of fintech and alternative finance options, recommend tech investment in Indonesia, and Indonesia has a young and tech-savvy population, meaning they rapidly adjust to a new technology. This statistically about digital in Indonesia, the increase is astronomically high, 17%. The number of internet use is increased 17%. Internet penetration in Indonesia is still stood at 64% in January 2020, and the number of social media has increased 8.1%. It's a huge increase. With this statistic, it's clear that e-commerce market is expected to grow faster in the coming years. This is how Indomaret deal with this technology advancement. To tap into the e-commerce market, Indomaret has launched an online shopping service called Klik Indomaret. The second is about e-wallet. E-wallet is start gaining popularity in Indonesia and becoming one of the most popular cashless payment. This is based on the news report. 66% of netizens use a digital payment method. Indomaret also stepped up to build its own e-wallet called Isaku. Currently, it can be used to pay only in Indomaret store, but the improvement is still in progress. The last I want to explain about macroeconomic Indonesia. This is the data from 2019. You can see that the gross domestic product is growth only 5.02. Inflation is stable in 2.7. Government debt can be maintained in the level of 30% of the GDP. Exchange rate is stable in 14,000 rupiah. Current account balance is 2.7% of the GDP. This is the number of population. The poverty dropped to 9.8. Unemployment rate also dropped to 5.2. During the 2019 global slowdown and trade war is the main challenge of the Indonesia. The government had performed well to keep the economy stable, with domestic GDP growth rate is 5.02%, backed by the strong domestic consumption. The strong domestic consumption is good signal for the retail company like Indomaret. In the beginning of 2020, Indonesia and the world suffer from the COVID-19 pandemic. We are still waiting for the exact data about the impact of the pandemic to the economy. But the economy is expected to drop significantly because of the social distancing and also large-scale restriction in Indonesia we call PSBB. Based on the data of the quarter 1 2020, the GDP growth rate has fallen sharply from 5.02 to below 3, 2.97%, and quarter 2 is expected to be worsened. If social distancing and large-scale restriction persist for the longer time, the domestic consumption will drop and retail industry will suffer. This is the conclusion. The Indonesian demographic massive population with slow population growth rate, expanding the middle class and declining the poverty can offer great economic potential for the retail business like Indomaret. The company has to be agile enough to catch the opportunity of the behavior changes when the individual move to the middle class. Indonesia cultural diversity, especially religion, can be beneficial for the retail company to boost the sales, especially during the religious holiday. Government via the competition authority or KPPU have to solve the imbalance competition between Indomaret and the small shop. This problem can become a source of a bigger social problem, and the regulation should be balanced. These two interests is needed. The government has done well to create a conducive climate for the business operators in Indonesia. For retail business like Indomaret, stability and infrastructure are very important. Company has also developed environmental ethics and helped the government to solve the environmental problem. Company also has to be agile enough to see the opportunity in the advancement of the technology. New technology provide new market opportunity. The strong domestic consumption that accounted for more than 50% of the GDP of Indonesia helped Indonesia maintain its economic growth. But the government have to maintain the domestic consumption, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic.